Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast. I'm your host, Jack Dalrymple, here alongside my co-host, Michael Ketchen. Today, we are hitting a big milestone. I welcome you to episode number 50. The big 50, Michael.
It took 50 episodes and now I'm not a Mr. It's always Mr. Michael Ketchen. Now today
I'm not that up too. Legitimately, I cannot even think when I'm reading it. Like, it would not out. I don't understand what happens.
It would not be a Tell Us Why episode in honor of anything if Jack Dalrymple did not screw up reading. I have been at meetups approached by people now talking about, man, he really can't read. And I'm like,
legitimately, I don't even understand what's happening.
System and processes. But yes, the big 50. We said we would give this crazy thing a year, and what a year it has been. It's
and now we're
definitely been interesting. Yeah. But we wanted to do something kind of different for the listeners. We wanted to kind of go back and recap and really kind of reignite. And, you know, I think these monumental episodes are important for a reason, because they're catalysts. You know what I mean? They're goals. They're things you work towards as you get going, at least in my eyes anyways.
Yeah. So I would just kind of want to start with the end in mind. Just want to throw this out there. Set the hook. At the end of this episode, we're going to have a pretty big announcement. So I just want to throw that out there. But as Mike said, we're going to be discussing the 5 biggest themes from our guests over the past 50 episodes. So, I
think Jack just hit the nail on the head. And before we get into it, one thing we really wanted to do with Tell Us Why, that we really tried to do across these first 50 episodes, was take that why, take the power of that why, and kind of weave together those themes and show that they cross industries, they cross entrepreneurs. They cross different stages in your careers, different stages in your progression as a business or an entrepreneur, whatever it might be. We've had, the Donis brothers who are, I don't know if any of them are old enough to drink, all the way up to, Dave Garofalo, who's a successful multimillionaire many times over in the cigar industry, kicking back to real estate investors who have done huge portfolios, massive amounts of flips, all the way down to people doing their first deal. We've had local guests who, good buddy of ours, supported the podcast, Rusty Carter, flipping cars. Nancy just completed her first flip, also has a couple rentals. We had Merrimack Valley Eats. You name it, all along the board. And when me and Jack took a step back and looked at it, we said, wow, we really kind of built what we wanted to do. We want to kind of share those themes and show you guys and kind of tie it together with a nice little bow and with a couple of cool things and a little montage on the way out, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny though, because I remember thinking, maybe 10 years ago, before any of my real estate or anything like that started, like something as simple as mindset. Like I thought it was just complete bullshit, like a yoga Buddhist type thing, like hippie stuff. I don't know, like whatever you want to call it, but it is so important. And that's why guest after guest keeps touching on these things, and we just want to go through and kind of touch on all of those. Not all of them, but 5 of them. The most important ones in our eyes, at least. But before we get to that, Mike, what's going on in the business these days? What do you got? It's nice and slow, nothing going on?
We are in the middle of selling a big chunk of our portfolio. Kind of a crazy time. First time we've ever done it. So
I literally just got the email.
we having trying to 1031 a good amount of money, and it's a different kind of process, which is new and exciting, and hope the community follows along. And anybody who's been looking at social media, man, it's crazy. We had a couple of Airbnb nightmares. I could go on and on, but yeah, check it out. Instagram at mketchen and at Tell Us Why __. Come follow along. Jack, what do you got cooking?
It's refi season, baby. Rates are going up. Trying to get the refi out the door before last refi out the door before rates go up. They've obviously ticked up a little bit, but try to wrap that up before they go up much further.
You know why Jack's not stressing though? Because you make your money on the buy, and he bought it. That is why Jack is not stressing.
Fact.
Buy it thin, you're not gonna win.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with the rates rising.
Oh yeah, 5 things.
Mike has frozen, so it's a good time to hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll get into the episode.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
Okay, so as we said a moment ago, we will be discussing the 5 biggest themes from guests over the first 50 episodes of the Tell Us Why podcast. And to kick it off, Michael, little Jim Rohn quote, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." I think I've read this quote at least 6 times on the podcast. Why? Why am I reading that?
And messing up all 6.
Yes. Producer Jake chiming in, of course. Well played. And he's spot on because he has to edit and try to make this sound good. So thank you for Jake. Jack, I think it really boils down to if you take a step back, okay, at your day-to-day life and the results you're getting, good and bad, it really comes down to decisions. And a lot of times our decisions are impacted by who or what we are spending our time with. So that's what I think it boils down to for me is when you want to level up to something or you want to get somewhere to hit a goal, you can get there a lot quicker by being around 5 other people who have done what you're trying to do or are progressing and talking about going on that similar journey, right? If I'm going to build a house, I can't go ask people who've never built a house how to build a house. They'll have an opinion, and that's the negative side of it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion, yet they want to tell you what to do despite never having done it. So if you're around negative people, guess what? You're going to be the 6th one. If you're around 5 positive people, there's a chance you're going to be the 6th positive one. Yeah. And that's why I think that comes up often. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but that's
well, actually, now that you say that, like that was a great example. Like a lot of the times people give their opinion, like even if it's close people, like family, friends, like people that you care for and care for you greatly, they'll give you their opinion. But if they're not where you want to be, it might not be the best information for you. Like your parents tell you to go to school and get a safe job and take this safe course after this safe course, like saving money and stuff like that. And it's not always the best thing for you. Like people have told me to do that my entire life. And then when I stopped doing that, stopped going to my 9 to 5, started pursuing my own financial freedom is when my life exponentially got better. Like both personally, professionally, and I just spit everywhere. But it was like, they're giving you the advice with the best intentions, and it's not always, always the information that
no
you need
one would have known that. Absolutely no one.
I know, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. So, and on that note, to echo kind of what Jack's saying, it's so dangerous, especially when you're at these inflection points. Okay. If your circle of trust, if your circle of influence is not pushing to be better or pushing you or being positive, and they're very risk adverse, it's going to be hard to break through that. So the whole idea again around is, if I want to, become a millionaire, I need to go hang out with more millionaires. There's nothing wrong with the people who aren't millionaires. It's not a bad thing. However, they're probably not going to get you to where you need to go because they can't relate. I'll give a real quick real life example about this. I told people all the time, as you know, in the podcast, we said, I come from an urban education background, a school. And we saw year after year, and I think it's a country-wide problem, but I can only speak to what I saw firsthand. Seniors would really struggle with college, and they'd end up taking bad financial aid packages, going to schools. And what I saw as a point of correlation that doesn't get discussed enough, a lot of times, these are first-generation immigrants, okay? They are the first ones in their family to go to college, similar to I was, because I went through it, all right? They're about to do something for the first time that their circle of influence, their parents, their friends, their family, has never done. So they can't advise them and set them, hey, no, this is a bad financial aid package. Hey, it's bad to take out this much debt. Hey, this school's not great at this. Because the people they're associated with are negatively impacting that situation. due to sheer ignorance. So that shows up in life all the time. And there's a reason successful people want to be around other successful people. Okay. You need to cut out negative people. I make it a point. Okay. If someone is negative, they are gone. They are like cancer. You need to cut it out. You need to treat it. Because guess what? What does cancer do? If left alone, it will spread. And negative people, they will never, ever come up to your level, but they will bring you down to their level. And you cannot waste that time, because the most precious commodity, as we all know, is time. And every second it compounds. Wasting on someone who's not improving, someone who's not going where you want to be, someone who's not doing the things you want to do, is a second you do not get back. So you get diminishing returns on that time.
Yeah. I mean, I've touched on it a couple of probably like 10 episodes ago at this point, but like even like a family member, like I have a family member that is just like you're saying, I never told that individual about this podcast, so I can say this freely. Like they're just a cancer. Like every time I talk to them, it's this is wrong. Like something's this, I'm complaining about this and this. And I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. You have to cut this off. So I made the decision to cut it off. And I mean, it's not easy. It's never going to be. I'm not saying I don't love that individual or anything along those lines. Like it's still, it's family, blood. Like I still talk to them, but I'm not at the same rate that I did before. And when I do, it's a completely different mindset. I'm just going to let them go and talk, and it's just chatter now. It doesn't affect me to my core like it did in the years before growing up and things like that. It's a completely different conversation, at least from my perspective now. But
well, no, and I was going to say that to echo that and to end it with this is, good friends and good people don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And, put the ego aside for a second. And if someone's telling you something and you're offended by it, go to the root of it. Are they trying to tear you down, or are they actually trying to build you up? Right? Take the emotional response out of it. All right. You gotta get around these people who are going to push you to be great, or you're never going to be great. It's really as simple as that. And remember, you're trying to live an uncommon life. So who really gives a fuck what most people have to say? Go find the people who are doing what you want to do and do that, and bet on yourself.
Yeah.
That's leave it on that.
All right. Then I think something that's pretty closely related. Moving on to mindset, and we'll kick it off with a Wayne Dyer quote here. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And like the thing that I always love to start with is like yellow Porsche. You buy a yellow Porsche, you're going to see yellow Porsches everywhere. It's a mindset shift. Like I used to think this was all like hunky dory, like just crazy, like I think I said at the beginning, like Buddhist like talk, like yoga style talk, like coaching, like it just, I used to not believe the mindset shift until I actually went through it. And I wish I could just be like, this is what I did and this is how it changed. But one day it was just like, now I'm a real estate investor. I had no properties at that point, but I just started doing everything in my power to become a real estate investor to get where I was today. Like it was just a mindset shift. And I don't know I wish I could just articulate it. I can't articulate anything, first of all, but articulate it better of how I went through that transition. But
well, you got it. I mean, I can tell you as someone who observed you going through that, I can tell you exactly how you went through it. You started being intentional with your action. You started committing, no longer talking. You started doing. You started visualizing what you wanted, and then an opportunity presented itself. And you decided to say, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to take that opportunity. And I am prepared to fail. Jack was okay to fail. Now he succeeded, but you were okay with failure. And what people don't understand is when you shift and you start focusing on the process over the results, you got to understand sometimes you're going to miss. You're going to swing and you're going to miss, right? Why do we love sports? Michael Jordan failed plenty. Tiger Woods failed plenty, right? These people failed plenty. Tom Brady didn't fail often, but he failed some. All right. So,
here we go.
But it always stuck with me, right? And what you just said is right there. Intentional action, being okay with that, getting into it. So that mindset shifts. Everyone else, half the time, they don't succeed is because they're too goddamn afraid to try.
Yeah.
Right? How many guests have we had say, worst case, I go back to my job, I go back to my reality.
Yeah.
Something so simple. Something as a simple shift, but people are terrified to take it because it's comfortable over here. It's warm and fuzzy and safe over here. And that's fine. That's fine. But don't tell me I got lucky when I'm over here, because the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, I'm going to own it as an entrepreneur. And that's what you got to be okay with, right? Total accountability. You got to be okay owning the outcome, good or bad. And that's what you did. You own the outcome. Now, luckily it went well, but guess what? You had a little electrical emergency a couple months ago at one of the properties, $5,000 surprise bill.
Yeah.
You didn't get to cry. Oh, woe is me. No, owned it, good and bad.
But I mean, like, and looking now, you're like, oh yeah, everything went extraordinarily well. Like, there were tons of failures along the way. Like, my first property, I got sued 2 months after I got it. My second property was a flip that I couldn't flip. Like, I turned it into a rental because I knew I had other options, but like, I didn't end up selling that until 2 years later. Like, it wasn't, everything didn't go, it wasn't rosy the entire time. It sucked for a long time. And there was like questions of whether or not I was going to make it. Like, I was on the verge of failure probably a dozen times. Like, I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever I needed at every point. And I still made it work. Like, it's never going to be easy. Like, you don't have to have all the answers. People get stuck on like the analysis by paralysis because they think they need everything to go right. Like, if you fail, like, there's nothing really wrong with that. Yeah, sure, it's going to suck in the short term.
You get a lesson out of it, man.
Last guest, Gordon, he failed. He was bankrupt in 2011. And now he's left his job in 2018.
Should I tell Jake that this episode's coming up before Gordon's episode, or we're not going to get into that? I think
preview for next week. Don't worry, everyone. Check out next week's episode to find out what the hell Jack's
doing. The episode has gone off the rails. But I think what Jack is saying is spot on, is that you can toe the line of failure and you're really learning a lot about yourself, okay? And guess what? A lot of times those mountains, when we start breaking down to small steps, they're really just little hills, right? But in our mind, we build it up. So again, take intentional action, bet on yourself, and be prepared to be okay with failure as long as the work was there, as long as the process was there.
Sure.
Don't fall in love with the result, fall in love with the process.
Yeah, that's come up a bit too. So then moving on to the next thing, item number 3, it's something that I feel like was one of the most talked about, and it's systems. I feel like at least half of the guests in some way, shape, or form, probably more than that, reference systems in some way. So kick it off with a Michael Gerber quote: "Systems run the business and people run the systems."
Yes, that is so true. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. And another thing we like to say a lot is start with the end in mind, right? You don't need to know that you're going to have your dream team or your whole business plan laid out 10 years in the future from day one. Some people might try to plan it that way, but life's going to come at you and do this. And, you're going to look left, it's going to hit you right. But systems allow you to live your why, right? And everyone's why is a little different, but usually you're moving towards that goal. And a lot of times, whether we've talked to restaurateurs, whether we've talked to real estate investors, whether we've talked to what I was going to say on there, artists. We had Zach Camacho, the knife maker, on, right? Scaling and systems and understanding. Zach, perfect example. I'll break it down. One standalone business. He had to get his social media offloaded. He had to get his knife shop offloaded and automated online to be able to free up to scale the business. That's small scale. I'll take it back to a guy I mentioned before, one of my favorites, Dave Garofalo. Cigar industry, had to scale all those different businesses, podcasts, stores, retail, you name it. We've had a bunch of real estate investors on who've obviously scaled up and have made it through. So systems, they show up every day. And you can really break this down in your life at any point. The best part, Jack, systems can be free. It can be as simple as you getting organized and figuring out what technology you're going to leverage or what resource you're going to lever to get out of the day-to-day and actually work on the business instead of in the business. Yeah.
And I think, one of the things that we've touched on, I know you love to hire lazy people. Like, the lazy people do the most efficient work.
Yes.
It's something that I think a lot of people, that's lost on people. They hear lazy, they think it's a negative connotation. But when you're like starting out and you're doing everything, like, sure, it's fun for a while, but now you're spending 6 hours on January 3rd doing all your textbooks, or you're doing your books and stuff like that. Now it's time you're focusing on doing your books and not focusing on expanding your business. You're not having those big thought, the time to analyze the big thought questions when you're wasting your time doing the minutia like that you don't need to do. And I feel like a lot of that gets lost on a lot of people. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know, just to button that up, you just hit the nail on the head, right? You know, the staff we hire now, I say basically, I want to pay you a lot of money to work very little, because that means you're getting their brain power to solve a problem in the most efficient way possible, right?
Yeah.
And that's the underlying system. So absolutely, systems, you got to implement them, you got to think about them, and they're going to tweak over time, but you got to have them as part of your foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was number 4.
All right, so this is one of my favorites because I feel like it is one of the most influential things that transformed my life. So kick it off with self-education. Self-education is the only kind of education there is. The only function of school is to make self-education easier. Failing that, it does nothing. This is something that I stress to my son every single day that he goes to school. Like, in my mind, I'm paying for an education so you can learn how to teach yourself. And if you can't do that, school is an absolute failure, failure. Like, I went to school, I went to college, it was great. Some of the information was useful, a lot of it wasn't, especially referencing college. But like, if I didn't start reading books on my own, like YouTube, you know, it doesn't have to be books, it can be podcasts, it can be hopefully podcasts, YouTube videos, YouTube University, things like that. If you cannot teach yourself at this day and age, that's not anyone else's fault but your own.
Oh yeah, and staying with that, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? One thing we like to say whenever we get started, because people ask, you know, how'd you get started? And I tell them, you gotta get obsessed. And you know, my favorite is always someone will come back, we'll start a coaching call, and they'll go, I have no time. I'll say, okay, let's look at your day, right? What do you do? Oh, I drive. Yeah, I drive 30 minutes to work. I drive 30 minutes back. I get an hour lunch. Okay, well, that's 2 hours a day times 5 days a week. That's 10 hours right there. Times a year, that's 520 hours. Do you know how many books and podcasts you can get in that time? And then what are you doing on Wednesday night? Are you binge watching Netflix with Chinese food, or are you going to a networking event? Okay. Or, you know, on a Tuesday night, are you playing Call of Duty for 5 hours, right? Or are you going on YouTube and learning how to do something and bettering yourself? We are a direct outcome of the decisions we make. Our results tie into our decisions. I have a mutual acquaintance, okay, good buddy of mine, but he always says, I want to invest, I want to do that, I want to do this. The guy plays 40 hours of video games a week. So I've had to tell him, listen.
You do it professionally? Is it one of the Phase crew?
No. And I've told him, I'm like, you think you want to go to this dark place. You don't want to. You think you do.
Yeah.
But you're not willing to make that sacrifice. So that self-education piece, I have yet to meet the person who's successful, meaning from where they started to where they are, who is not invested in some form of education. Yeah, we ask the college question because the way college is forced upon us in this country, it's more of a financial and poorly designed decision a lot of times. But we're big on education. I mean, we get in the car, either one of us, I guarantee it's a podcast or a book long before it's music.
Yeah.
Again, self-choice. We're not saying this is for everybody, nor should it be for everybody. But if you want to live a life on your terms, you have to design the life on your terms. So you have to learn how to build the life on your terms. Yeah. You have to leverage your time better. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning for me, like I was obsessed when I decided real estate was going to be my thing. Like I would, every single down second of every single day, like I would not watch TV anymore because I would be reading a book. Like, and that's extreme. I realize that. But like, I didn't watch TV for probably 3 years of my life. Like I would turn it on every once in a while, but very rarely, if ever. And I would be dedicated to either going on forums or reading books, podcasts, everything.
I want to tie it into what Jack just said with this. When you guys listen to this, right? Back to what we said, results, processes, education, themes, because we're trying to tie this all together. So you see Jack now, you say you've got a couple of rentals, they've appreciated, you've cashed out, refi. That's all great. What you don't see though, because that's a result, is back to that process piece. You don't see that me and Jack met in a mastermind on Tuesday nights when we're trying to squeeze it in. You don't see that he said he's reading books constantly for 3 hours, not enjoying TV. That is the process. That is what we're talking about. That is a self-education piece. That is tying all this together to get the results, to be where Jack is now in his investing career. Anybody can do it. Few will.
Yeah. I love the example online. I see online all the time. It's be like, oh yeah, your overnight success that took 15 years, like that type of thing. Like they don't see that process. They just see that you're doing well now, so they're jealous and they say that they can't do it. But it's step by step, like 1% every day. 1% is all it takes.
Man, listen, if you don't got haters, you don't got shit. Don't ever forget that.
Yep. All right. So moving on to goal setting, working backwards. If you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time.
That was so good. When you sent over the show notes, I hadn't heard that one. And I was like, that is so good. We started, so if you remember early on, when we started talking about Tell Us Why, I have it in one of my notebooks I use for the business. And we had talked about the podcast and we actually wrote it out in 2019, right? 2 years before it ever launched. And it goes back to show why you have to put things down to make them real, why you have to talk about them, why you have to be obsessed. It's okay to be obsessed. I don't know why we poo-poo people who are obsessed. It's okay to be obsessive. Don't be destructive, but it's okay to be obsessive. And the goals, that's what you said earlier, right? You get to live the life now that they want because they wouldn't do what you did, right? Yeah. There was no home field advantage. There was no lucky anything about it. You put yourself in a position to be able to execute. Everyone else can choose to be in that position, but they won't even take the time to get out a fucking goal book, right? My favorite is all the time, wait, right? We're all lie to ourselves. So I'm going to work out, for the first 3 weeks of January because it's the new year. I got these goals. Well, by February 1st, they're done. So how much did it really mean to you?
Gym's empty again, yeah.
Right? It's like, give me a break. It's, there's so many franchises out there making money off paid subscription services that people won't cancel because the mind says, I'm going to do something. And then you have such little follow through. You can't commit. Yeah. Motivation is a very weak thing. And this is where goal setting comes back. If you're really honest with yourself and you really write down what you truly, truly want, you stop, you think about what you want your life to look like, and you break it down into steps and you start taking action, that's not easily stripped away, right? You don't quit the first time you hit adversity because it's something you truly want. Stop lying to yourself. Start being honest. Put it down on paper and make it real.
Yeah. I mean, that go back and listen to that. Like that is very powerful. Like you think a lot of people think they want something. Like use the being in shape example. Like I want a six pack. Like I'm just not willing to work out that much. I realize that. Like there's a big difference between wanting and truly wanting something. And you need to go back and actually think about that. Set aside that time, whether it's just you, whether it's you and your wife, you and your family, you and your business partner, whatever it is, sit down and have that conversation. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 2.5 years, 2 years, 1 year, next month, tomorrow? Like, what is it going to be? Like, what are you going to do today to get to tomorrow and make yourself realize your why, I guess.
Absolutely. We are again, the way we talk to ourselves is so important. It's so impactful, right? Most people will do anything else except work on themselves. They will not take the time to dream big. They will not take the risk to take a chance. Then they'll complain about the results they get in the lives that they have. When in reality, it's just your little decisions compounding. Your goals should scare the fuck out of you. You get one crack at this, right? If you're not going to take action on yourself, if you're not going to invest in yourself, what are we doing here? Right? It doesn't mean financial. It means your life. Maybe your goal is to be the best husband of all time. Maybe your goal is to be the best dad of all time. Maybe your goal is to volunteer 10 hours a week. Whatever the fuck it is, I don't care. Because if you're going to do it and you're going to be intentional, I guarantee you will feel better when you cross it off, and it will start to build and it will compound. But if you're just walking through life aimlessly, what was the quote again, Jack? If you aim at nothing, you're going to hit it every time.
If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Like, I'm better at quotes. I don't have them in front of me. I don't know if we do the quotes on the show.
Yeah.
All right. What's the big announcement?
All right. So as we alluded to in the introduction, we are officially announcing that our forum is live. All right. For the people that sign up now and start posting some content, it will be forever free. Well, we will be doing live events, meetups, trainings. We're in the works of partnering with some prior guests and apparently a future guest, and entrepreneurs to make available further resources, direct access to Michael, myself, our team, and our resources will be on there. And
we have a chance. What we have a chance to do here is something we really wanted. And this is the next iteration of Tell Us Why. We started this not about me and Jack. We really want to build a community and come in early, help us build it. It is not going to be perfect. I can guarantee you that, because you're looking at the team of people building it with Jake behind the scenes. And we're trying to build something that becomes a resource that leaves a legacy that goes beyond just me and Jack. We really want people. And actually, I'll share a quick story about the power of this community. I don't know if I'm supposed to put this out there or not, but I don't really care. Good friend of mine, Jack's met him a bunch of times too, but one of my best friends, one of my brothers, is now leasing a laundromat in a building I own to then become a laundromat entrepreneur, because he was so inspired by Tell Us Why and the guests we had on that he took the time to go down the rabbit hole, bet on himself, came to me with a pitch about working. I said, absolutely, let's do it. And that almost makes the last year of putting up with Jack stumbling and Jake being a pain in the ass behind the scenes, it almost makes it worth it for that alone. Forget everything else. Just to get that moment. And that's really what we want to build. And it's been a fun ride. It's been some ups and downs, it's been some stressful moments.
No doubt. But
we got through it.
Yeah, I mean, as we discussed earlier, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So come spend some time with us on the forum. We'll be there all the time, posting topics, talking about investing. Real estate will probably be a big topic for us, but it's going to be stock investing, real estate investing, business building, mindset, everything, the whole why behind it.
Absolutely love it. And we are going to end the show with a great video montage. But before we do that, because there's no big three, should we hear who the montage is going to be brought to us by?
We should.
Are you looking to finance your next deal quickly and reliably with less hassle and paperwork? QS Private Lending is one of the oldest and largest hard money lenders to real estate investors in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Our quick and simple short-term loans require no appraisals and have enabled hundreds of builders and investors to profitably acquire and renovate thousands of residential and commercial properties. To experience the QS difference for yourself, call or text Luke Conroy today at 315-323-0250. That's 315-323-0250. QS Private Lending.
All right. So like we said, the forum is on telluswhypodcast.com. You can find that up at the header. Nothing too extravagant about it. We might throw it up on Instagram and things like that, but that's where it'll be. So Mike, to wrap it up, is there anything we want to let our listeners know before we take off?
Same thing I say every week to end every episode. Bet on yourself.
Boom.
What is one thing you would want your 90-year-old self to say to you?
I was on the way here, and I'm just like, damn, this question,
So I put it.
It's a hard question, man.
So hard, and it could go in so many directions.
Let go of the idea and the concept of what you thought life is.
I'm glad I did get to do what I wanted to do.
Thank you for, living responsibly and having a good family and living a rich life. That's the goal, right?
I realize how precious life is and how much of a gift it really is. That's why it's called a present moment.
I don't want to be 90 and regret not doing something that I knew I wanted to do and I just never got around to doing it. So don't let time pass you by,
You did a fucking hell of a job.
Being a better friend, being a better listener, being kind to people, just giving back in ways big and small. I really want to be able to look back on my life and say, that's what I did. I was able to achieve that.
Damn, that was fun.
Yeah.
There's something along the lines that we didn't play it safe. We enjoyed life and took it for all it was worth.
Definitely live my life for me and no one else.
The money's almost gone. We
earned it well, it was worth it. We spent it well, it was worth it.
Everything that you did was well worth it.
I impacted enough people that they shared my vision to move it forward.
I would want my 90-year-old self to tell me you did it.
Thanking me for like taking care of myself.
Oh, you left it all out there, right? Isn't that what we all want?
And that I just lived in accordance with my values. I did it with the people that I love. I did business with the people that I love. And I left no stone unturned, didn't say no to any challenge, and just lived courageously and full of intent and left my mark.
Dang, girl, you did everything you said you would and everything you set out to do. You explored everything to the fullest and you didn't waste a day.
No regrets. If you failed, you failed. And that's all there is to it. You made those choices because those were the choices you made.
The impact that you're having is far greater than you can possibly imagine, and you're just getting started. Keep going, you're doing great.
So my 90-year-old self would be proud of at what point did I get up and say, you know what, I gotta change it. I gotta be different. I gotta go do this. I gotta shoot for it.
Did I actually really fulfill my potential? That's my whole thing. Is like, what's the potential? How can we get there? And in reality, everyone's potential is way higher than what they think.
That the game is never over. That I could have retired 40 years ago, but I love playing too much. That's what I hope happens when I'm 90.